Welcome, everybody. This is Avoiding the Addiction Affliction brought to you by Westwards Consulting, the Kenosha County Substance Use Disorder Coalition, and by a grant from the state of Wisconsin's Dose of Reality Real Talks. I'm Mike McGowan. Michael Massey is an award-winning and accomplished musician, speaker, author, composer, and producer. He's also a recovering alcoholic whose book, More, a Memoir, chronicles his downward spiral into addiction and his climb out of it. I got to be honest, it is an honest, an amazingly interesting story that is almost impossible to put down. Michael lives outside Madison, Wisconsin with his wife, Robin, and joins us today. Welcome, Michael.
Hi, Mike. Nice to meet you.
Well, I'm so glad you could do this. I told you off the air, I really loved your book. It was great. Like a lot of folks who go what you went through, especially those of us in the Midwest, you started early with your drinking, and your your memoir More is full of laughable, to me, laughable, ironic coincidences. Let's do the first one. Your first drunk at age 15 was where?
Well, I wasn't quite 15. It was on a church trip to Houston, Texas.
There we go.
I was an incoming sophomore in the choir, and we were doing a trip to Houston for the world's largest gathering of Lutheran youth in the Astrodome, then like the ninth wonder of the world or the eighth wonder of the
Yeah.
world. And a senior had smuggled vodka in his luggage, and we were in a dormitory at a college we were staying in on the way down. And wow, talk about a revelation. It's kind of like a 1-year-old with chocolate cake.
Yeah. Well, so what was the revelation?
Well, all of a sudden I was funny, and I was social, and I was smart, and I was making people laugh, and I felt like $1,000,000. I've read in different places that alcoholics on their first drunk feel differently than normal people.
Mm.
That it does affect them that way. That euphoria is pronounced in an alcoholic.
You know, Michael, I've worked with young people my entire life, and what you just said, I've talked about a lot, and it encapsulates a lot. One of the things that's terrifying to me about a young person drinking is what they discover in their personality when they drink, especially the second time they drink, you can duplicate it.
Yep.
That's very attractive to some kid, guy, especially 14, 15 years old.
Yep. Oh yeah, give you courage. Give you courage to maybe approach that young lady that you wanted to talk to. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, I
Yep.
know. Yeah.
Well, and but it didn't just stop with one drunk. You went head over heels with it. You were lucky to come out of high school with a diploma.
I was, I credit my girlfriend for getting me back into school, but I ended up with a 2.5 grade point average. I had 4.0 freshman and 4.0 senior, but in the middle there, it was a wasteland, I was lucky to pass. I read the World Book Encyclopedia from cover to cover in 1969 and 1970. My brother and I both did. And so in a Western Civ exam as a sophomore that I attended one day for the semester, I aced the final exam because of that encyclopedia, and she had to pass me.
Oh my God. For those of you who are younger, that would be like diving headlong into Wikipedia for hours
Right.
on end, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Holy cow. Well, but
Are we that old? Michael, are we that old?
well, I am. I don't think you are, but music though was your gift from early on.
I guess you could call it a gift. It was my chosen profession almost. It was a calling, put it that way. I knew from a very young age that that's what I wanted to do with my life. So therefore, everything else became kind of inconsequential. And everything was then to pursue that end, as opposed to college was not important. I wanted to be a rock star. Let's face it. It was in my blood. But as far as a gift, I'm lucky that I'm able to do it. But I do say, I think one of my favorite descriptors of myself is that on a really, really good night, I come close but never quite achieve greatness.
Wow. Why not? Why not? Others see it differently though, Michael. I'm sure others see it differently.
They may, but when I think greatness, I think Paul McCartney. I think,
yeah. Well,
I think the Eagles. I think, you know, the songwriting and the performance. Just watched the Billy Joel documentary, and his voice is just pristine even
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
You know, pushing 80 years old. I don't have that. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm okay. I've made a
Yeah.
living, but
Yeah.
I'm not great.
This is also for those of you who are younger who don't quite get what I'm about to say. Back in the day, bands were really popular and they were everywhere. High school dances,
Yep.
CYO. And so I laughed again out loud. You actually got hired to play church festivals with a band named what?
Lucifer. No,
Come
no.
on.
And we were all, I mean, I was the minority of being a Lutheran. Everybody else was Catholic in the band. Yeah, but not only that, there was another band on the east side of Madison named Satan.
Yes,
So,
yeah.
and we were friends, but still competitors.
Well, I wish I would have been in the gym to see you introduced by the Monsignor. But here's
Yeah,
Lucifer.
yeah. Oh
You know,
dear.
despite your, and you continued to get better, clearly, right? And your band achieved your bands, because that wasn't your last one. You achieved some success, but you seem to sabotage that success over and over. There's a sense in your book of getting to a point and then coming back down, and getting to a point and coming back down.
Yeah, and it wasn't intentional sabotage by any way, shape, or form, you know. It was it was alcohol that was doing it to me.
Yeah.
And in
Always
retrospect,
alcohol.
always alcohol. Thankfully, other drugs weren't really a problem for me. I mean, they were present because I was a rock singer, so
Yeah.
drugs and alcohol were everywhere. But other drugs didn't really interest me. It was all alcohol.
Did you feel almost like you had to do it? There was a persona you had to.
Well, that was part of it. It fueled that raucous, wild front man, Steven Tyler, Freddie Mercury, David Bowie, Mick Jagger-ish personality that I was coming across. I don't think that there was a show from the time I went on the road in 1978 until I quit drinking that I didn't have some amount of alcohol in my system, regardless of the time of day.
Wow. Well, there's stories back in those days of people who had it on stage. I think there was a story about Janis Joplin having a quart of Jack on the stage while she sang, right?
Everybody did, and you know, I've often said, depending on their degree of professionalism or addiction, it may or may not have been colored water.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
I often wondered that same thing. I was at a concert one time with Stevie Ray Vaughan, where Stevie Ray Vaughan played, and he showed a clip on the big screen of him playing intoxicated. And he was then in recovery, and he then played, said, if you think that it enhances your performance, think again. Here's how I play now. That was very
Right.
powerful. Although when he said, here's what I used to sound like drunk, people cheered. Right?
Of course they did.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It had to seem surreal, though, for you to be playing at a bar like the Stone Hearth in Madison. That's for those of you who are from around here. One day, and then a little while later, you're at Rod Stewart's place in California.
Yeah, I'm blessed with an amazing memory. I can remember details that people look at me funny, like, how the heck can you even possibly remember that stuff? And I have no business because of the amount of alcohol I was drinking
Yeah.
as well. But uh, to 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 think about those times, I mean, our management elevated us very quickly, and he had connections in the LA record industry. But yeah, I mean, my good friend Mike Ripp, the guitarist in the band, and I were at Rod Stewart's house not long after playing locally in the Midwest, and it was, of course, it was surreal, and we were starstruck and everything else, trying to make it seem like it was normal because we didn't want to seem like, you know, green kids from the Midwest, but we were. I mean, you can't really hide that. And in retrospect, I wish we would have embraced that more because people would have, seeing my daughter's success and embracing her Midwestern roots.
Hmm.
People are loving that on both
Yeah.
coasts.
She's
So
also a musician.
yes,
Yeah.
and very very talented and achieving success that is transcending my own.
Yeah, it's very good. You have some on your website, and you all know who listen that we have links to all of this. Her music is is really good, really good.
Yeah.
You certainly live the lifestyle, right? Was there a sense, though, as you just indicated, where you needed it to feel like you fit in, that there was a, what would the kids call it, poser, sort of like, I don't deserve this, what am I doing?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think to a certain extent I still feel that, the imposter syndrome. We talked before on air about writing a book. I have no business writing a book. I don't know what I cannot do. I
Mm,
guess it
mm,
comes down to. In retrospect, at that point in my life, in the early rock and roll days and we were flirting with the record labels and stardom in Hollywood, I think becoming a rock star was more important to me than the music as I look back there. It was a very superficial pursuit at that time. Even though we were coming up with some pretty darn good music,
mm-hmm.
it seemed secondary to the pursuit of fame, as opposed to after I got sober, where everything flipped and I concentrated on the quality of the music I was creating.
Do you like the stuff you wrote and performed back then?
I do, and I do. It's there are some really amazing stuff. I mean, it wasn't always a life altering and destroying thing, the alcohol. Until later in my life, I wasn't drunk 24/7. At that time, it was very exciting, and we were living that lifestyle in every moment of every day, eating, sleeping, breathing it. And so we were the camaraderie was amazing and the creativity was amazing. So yeah, and we have played recently some reunion shows with that band and done quite well with it.
That's got to
So
be fun.
yeah, almost 50 years later, dare I say it.
Well, because they weren't all terribly pleased with your drinking.
No, 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 but some of them weren't far behind me.
You're nice to them in the book then.
I am. I am. I blame myself for a lot of the negativity surrounding that because I was the front man and I
Uh-huh.
was the first person that they saw and management, agents and record labels, if they can't see past the front guy who's representing this and putting that vocal forth, there's no sense in looking further. So
Yeah. Well, you guys thought you were, and you thought you were on a straight line train, right?
yeah,
And then all of a sudden it just got derailed when one of the production companies said, nah, we'll take a pass. We'll go with another band.
it was Atlantic Records.
Hmm.
I mean, one of the biggest record labels in the world, and they had spent $35,000 on us in 1981, which translates to about 200 and some thousand now, by if you adjusted for inflation. So it was a major investment, but it was an investment for two bands, and they chose the other one,
Hmm.
which you think about the amount of money that label has to throw around, and it's like wow.
Yeah.
But they had the Stones, they had Led Zeppelin, they had AC/DC, they had Atlantic is a gigantic label. Aretha Franklin. You can go on and on. Foreigner, that were all selling millions and millions of records. So, and the
Well,
artists weren't making the money.
no, no, that's what we've all learned, right? You didn't
Yeah,
make a lot from that at all.
yeah,
The only way for them to make money now, do you still own your catalog? Because that's what they're all
we
doing
do.
now, is selling their catalogs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm having a little bit of success placing stuff in TV and film, but I'm also in a new band and writing really exciting new music that is some of the best stuff of my life.
It's really
So
good. Yeah.
yeah.
Well, another ironic coincidence. I think you go and you meet people, and there's a great part in the book with Andy Warhol, which is just sur- well, it defines surreal, doesn't it?
Really, it really does.
And then, as for those of you who are again too young, there's a show you were on, Star Search, which is the current, the current version of The Voice,
Mhm.
hosted by Ed McMahon, Johnny Carson, and Star Search fame. Not that I compare Andy Warhol and Ed McMahon, but and all of these people all around. And then where do you meet your wife?
In a mall.
In Madison.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you're around all the glam, and then what? Okay, so you got to talk about that. What?
Well, yeah, and it's a great story. We talked about those first flirtations with alcohol giving you courage to talk to women. I have been afraid to talk to women my entire life. But when I became a rock singer, I didn't have to be the one to initiate it. It was initiated to me. So all of those years, I did never had
Mm.
to be that social animal. After getting fired by my dad from selling cars at his used car lot, I went to work in a music store in a mall that sold pianos and organs. And this young lady used to come out and sit, taking her breaks out in the mall and listen to me play. And I was enamored with her. She was gorgeous. I thought, wow, I got to meet that woman. And through a coworker who rode the bus with her, we got introduced, and I gave her a ride home from work. We stopped and had a beer on the way home. And after I dropped her off, I went to my parents' house and told my brothers that I had just met the woman I was going to marry. She was everything, every good quality of every woman I had ever dated wrapped up into one package. And I didn't need to look any further.
There's a saying today, when you know, you know. So you must have gotten something from just that first meeting.
Yep. Yep. And now 38 years later, we're still together. I credit her with helping me to achieve sobriety. There's no
What
doubt.
what would she say to that?
She would say that I was the person that did it, but
Yeah.
to have her support waiting for me on the other side was priceless. I don't think that I could have done it without her support.
Well, I don't think it's just support either, Michael, because for me, there's an important part in your book where she basically says, I'm out unless you do X.
Right.
And so what? She drove you to detox.
Well, she said I'm out unless you quit, and then I moved in with a buddy
Yeah.
in a bad part of town, and then after some just realizing how I was ruining my life, asked her if I could come home, and I quit drinking on October 13th, 1993, and came home 3 days later, 2 days later, and 4 days after I quit, I finally went into hallucinatory withdrawal. That's when she took me to detox. And 5 days in the hospital in intermediate care and 15 days in treatment.
Let's go backwards for just a second, because when you get the DTs, when you go through that, alcohol can kill you. For those of you listening who don't know this, alcohol withdrawal can kill you.
It's the
Uh,
only drug that can.
mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
And so how much were you up to? How much were you drinking then? Because it had to be daily. It had to be a 24/7 thing almost.
Oh, it was definitely 24/7. I had a fifth of brandy underneath my bed, and I had pints in the car and pints hidden everywhere. It was 24/7. When I would wake up, I would hit the bottle, and 50% of the time I would throw it back up.
Yeah.
And but even doing that kept enough in my system to stop the shakes so that I could drink more. Yeah. The movie Leaving Las Vegas with Nicolas Cage
Mhm.
just shocked the hell out of me when I watched it because it was so realistic in its portrayal. I I could not believe how realistic it was, and that was me basically. At that point in alcohol addiction, you really don't care about anything. You just all you really care about is getting that next hit of liquor.
Mm. What was detox like?
Well, I don't remember a lot of it.
Yeah, I figured that.
Yeah, I remember getting to the emergency room, and then my memory leaves me, and I'm told that I was singing "Hey Jude" at the top of my lungs in the ER. I was violently thrashing on the table, and the ER doc told Robin that he wished it was being videoed so that he could
Mm,
show young people
mm.
the horrors of actual alcohol addiction. And I woke up in a hospital room with my wrists and ankles lashed to the bed.
Oh man, that's got to just be like, what the heck?
Yeah, yeah, but you know, in the grand scheme of things, Mike, I'm glad that it
Yeah.
happened because in my mind, being that far down, I mean, I was as low as you can be on this side of the grass, and it was almost beneficial to my recovery to be that far down and have nowhere to go but up. And that's why I want to tell my story to people
Yeah.
because the people that think that it's hopeless, it is not. It is not. I am living proof that it can be done.
And a lot of people have to do this 3, 4, 5, 10, 12 times. This stuck.
Yeah.
And I hope you don't mind me saying this. Surprisingly to me, reading the book, it stuck.
I had tried to stop on my own, but never seriously. And I did go
Mhm.
to one outpatient treatment a year before that I lasted a week before I was drinking and lying to him. And I went for a month. So yeah, I mean, I had my failures as well. But like I say, to be that far down,
Yeah.
it almost became easier.
Because there's nowhere else to go.
Nowhere else to go besides dying.
Well, this is theoretical, but you can answer it however you want to. How many bottoms does somebody have to hit before they hit their bottom?
Hold that question. I didn't answer your other question. How much was I up to drinking? I was doing at least a fifth of brandy a day, at least that, and a 12 pack of beer.
Oh.
Most times, probably more than that.
Were you eating?
Very little.
Yeah,
Very little. I would literally go days without
yeah,
anything, without
yeah.
eating anything. I was getting all my calories from alcohol.
Wow.
How many bottoms? And that kind of goes along with the failures to achieve sobriety. I had so many bottoms that should have been a bottom
Hmm.
in my performing career. My partner, telling me if you come to work drunk one more time, I'm done. I'm not going to play with you anymore. That wasn't my bottom, is telling.
Hmm.
I mean, how far down do you have to go? Mine was literally on the precipice of death.
Mm.
Had Robin not taken me to the hospital that night, I would have died from withdrawal.
Mm.
I would have died.
I
And they had to
had,
fill me full of Valium and Haldol
yeah,
to bring me back.
yeah. I had Dion DiMucci on a couple of years ago on the podcast from Dion and
Legend.
the
What a
Belmonts. Yeah,
legend.
yeah. And he's in recovery. And he told a story about being new into recovery and being in a limo with a bunch of folks. He mentioned them, and I don't recall them at the time, but very famous. And somebody offered him a drug. And I said, what would you say? He said, well, I just said, I'm good. And then he proceeded to say, everyone in that limo is dead. And then he said, and I'm still making music. That's you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. You alluded to 27 people I went to rehab with. 90 days later, two of us were sober and one was dead. Two of us were sober, and it was an older woman that was the other sober person. And I ran into her about 10 years after rehab
Awesome.
in a store, and we embraced, and it was such a happy reunion because we were both still sober 10 years later, and it was amazing. But all the 25 others, 24 others, the other one was it it sure hits home. And that might even be a better percentage of success than the actual average.
Yeah. Well, you never know. When I used to do this, Michael, sometimes you would say, well, I think this person will, or that person will, or you don't know. Even the pros, we don't know. You watch the show Intervention, right?
Oh
And
boy. Yeah.
and people who seem to have everything going for them, and then the last little tagline, they relapsed in 9 days. And then some dude living in a refrigerator box down by the river, he's been sober for 9 months. You don't know, right?
My counselor gave me the least chance of success out of the 29 people.
Wow. So October 1993,
Yeah.
right? So what is that? You're now on 30 years?
32. It'll be 32 in October.
Wow. My math is used to be better.
Mine
That's
too.
outstanding. Congratulations. Well, there can't be a better sober birthday present than the birth of a child. Who was born on your sober birthday?
Emily, my musician daughter, who's got over 100 million streams on Spotify.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, the day, 2 years to the day that I quit drinking, she was born. And it just solidified that decision. I mean, the universe was smiling. It was very powerful.
What did it do? I mean, I know you said solidified it, but how did then being a dad, and of course, Robin is, of course, still incredibly supportive, right? How did being a
Mhm.
dad change your view of sobriety? And recovery.
It just made life that much deeper and sweeter.
Mhm.
And to be able to experience, knowing that when you're as far down the alcoholic wormhole as I was, you wouldn't be able to enjoy that. We tried early in our marriage to have children, and I would have been a horrible father. So
Mhm.
it's a really good thing that we weren't successful. Being a father just it changes everything for everyone. I tell my friends now that after they have the birth of their first child, your life will never ever again be the same. It just won't.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know. So to to love every moment, to experience everything fully, is the gift of sobriety.
Oh, that's great. I'll let you end it with this. You and I both live in Wisconsin, right? And you're a Packer fan. You have to be. If you're not, then move. All right. Um, so you tell a story where you had an aha moment during the Green Bay Packers victory parade. For those of you living in Minnesota, that's what you get when you win the Super Bowl. And
Oh, careful there.
sorry, yeah, right. I just lost a state. And
Yeah.
after they won the Super Bowl in New Orleans in the mid 90s, you had like an aha. You defined winning as,
Well, you and I both know that the 70s and 80s were the pinnacle of mediocrity
oh
for the Green Bay
God,
Packers.
that's what makes the jokes fun, right?
Yeah, yeah. 8 and 8 season was a success.
Yeah.
Wow, we're and almost making the playoffs in 1989 was amazing. Anyway, to live through all of that every week in the fall, as we all did as Wisconsinites, and to see that success after 20 plus years. I became a fan the year after they won Super Bowl two. So I knew nothing but mediocrity, nothing except mediocrity for my entire fandom. I thought the Packers are winning, and I looked at my 16-month-old daughter next to me, and I'm blubbering like an idiot. I've got snot coming out of my nose and just crying watching Packers in their open air buses going through snowy streets of Green Bay. And my daughter says, "Daddy, why are you crying?" I said, "They're happy tears, Emily." Because, it was at that moment that I thought, this reaction, which was so visceral and so almost violently crying, was not just for a football team. It was also for me. It was also
Mhm.
maybe I'm winning. Maybe I do deserve this happiness in this modest little home and my beautiful family that I've got now. And looking at a musical career as a means to a living as opposed to trying to be a rock star. It was an epiphany. It was an eye-opening moment, and I carry it with me. I carried that awakening with me. And after that, the Packers were just a football team and not an obsession as well.
Wow. Wow. That's incredible. That's just such a great definition of winning, too. For those of you listening and watching, please go to the links provided and listen to some of Michael's old music and new music and
Mm,
his daughter's music that you're featured on in several of them, right?
yeah.
It's just wonderful. Michael, thanks so much. It's an inspiring story, your work. Pick up the book. It's just a great read. We hope that those of you listening find love, courage, support wherever you are. Thanks for listening. Be safe. And I'm going to borrow a line from Michael to end it. Life is so sweet, sober.